The governor's got a big task ahead, and I think there's an acknowledgement that everybody has to work together. I see no indications that people want to work together.
No.
What's going on?
I saw him right before I left, and he seemed like a new person. He seemed energized. When I saw him at Christmas time, in the aftermath of the storm, in the aftermath of the whole Robert Warren thing, he seemed like if anything came along, he was willing to jump on board, whatever that might be. But he seems determined. He seems refreshed. And I think the governor, if he stays on course, he's been proven to be right. Everything he has said is starting to pan out. But no, I don't see any indication that Murphy's willing to work with him, that Montalbano's willing to work with him, and certainly not that the unions are willing to work with him.
You know, a month ago I had Bob Watson and Nick Gorham on, and I know you talk to them regularly also. They said, look, watch out for a broadening of the sales tax. I mean, people try to spin it, fees, taxes, whatever, that they got to look for more revenue. We didn't, I said, I don't know about that. That's a tough sell. Well, don't you know, just a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was, Mora and Handy came out with this fair equalization, whatever it is. Right. Do you sense that there is any stomach up there for any raising of taxes? Everybody says no, but this is an election year. Right. What are they going to do to plug that gap?
If they can find a way to not have to make any changes with state employees or cut any spending, they want to find that way.
How do
I don't
you do
think
that?
It exists. That's why you come up with ridiculous ideas of, let's just go gambling 7 days a week, 24 hours. Let's try to tax anyone that makes over $140,000. They do not. Where I think the difference is, Governor Carcieri sees structurally we have to change things. They have no interest in changing anything.
But don't you also see the governor doing a little, I don't know if it's gimmickry or one time, this whole deal about the 17-year-olds being committed for prison last year, that wasn't a policy issue. That was a financially driven one. Right. This whole deal with cell phones.
Yeah.
And that, the estimates were vastly off. You don't raise money by, if you think that's a public safety issue, don't you sense that it's so bad that even the governor, who would kind of like to be guided more by policy, it feels the whole financial burden on his shoulders that they're coming up with anything they can come up with.
It's true.
You sense that?
Yeah, I do. And the governor, though, if he could just stay on message, and you're right, it is an election year, because, Jim, things are going to get worse. I mean, if our bond rating goes down, which it could, because of the unfunded pensions, you're going to see cities and towns. I mean, it will become like the Titanic, and then everyone's going to be jumping for the life
And
rafts.
then the May Revenue Estimating Conference could go the other way. They always hope for an uptick.
And look what's happening in the cities and towns. In Warwick, they're talking about closing schools. Warwick, Cranston, Coventry, East Providence, Pawtucket, they're all in trouble and all right on, teetering on the edge.
And facing cuts in state aid now in the revised budget. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah. But the governor is right. And I agree with him. Why should he and why should we continue to give these cities and towns just blank checks when they throw out ridiculous contracts the way they do in Cranston?
And not forcing the co-pays on medical
and not let
pension.
Don't force the unions to pay their fair share.
What do you think about as it goes out? Do you think it's going to be a last minute, let's get out of here and pass it in the middle of the night? We've certainly seen that before. We saw that with the privatization last year.
I think a lot's going to happen between now and the end of the session. I think the situation fiscally is going to get worse. But I support the governor. I mean, I think Governor Carcieri is the best governor we've had in a really long time. Maybe, Governor Gary, he was a very popular governor. But he's doing the right things. He hasn't had the type of support that he, could enjoy, or needs to enjoy in order to get things accomplished. But the guy works hard. He knows what he's talking about. And I don't know why we let the people that put us in this situation, how they're going to turn it around. How is Constantino, Murphy and Company, they put us in this $6 million, $100 million hole. How are they now going to bail us out of it?
You've been in this state a long time, and it's always baffled me. I think one very interesting indicator is that, with the exception of the Bruce Sunland years, the last 25 years we've had Republican governors, maybe wanting to have a check and balance. I've always wondered why it doesn't translate more to the polls in terms of getting independents or Republicans in. Oh, this big bad legislature, throw the bums out, but when it comes down to people going into the voting booth, they don't vote their own bum out. Why don't they do that?
Well, a lot of people were still running unopposed. The union is still strong and scaring some people off. It's not easy to be in the General Assembly when you have to be up at the State House. You know that. The hours that they have to serve. People just don't have that kind of time. I also think a place in Rhode Island where you have so many people that have to work sometimes 2 jobs or both parents are working, they simply don't have the time.
You mean to pay? Oh, to run?
In order to be able to run and then serve. But also look at some of the candidates. It was between Governor Carcieri and Mirth York, and it was between Lincoln Almond and Mirth York. And then you go back to some of the other candidates that have been put up. But right now is a crucial time because this is war between Governor Cucciari and the unions. It is make or break, and they're either going to drag us down or we're going to start to make changes and turn this thing around.
Let me get to the union thing in just a second. Stephen Cody's election in Newport. Do you see that as a microcosm or is that an aberration?
The Republican Party has to find good people to run. And he was someone
and
that
was a Democratic stalwart
It was.
down there.
But he ran because there was no one else willing to run. And it turned out to be a great candidate. I mean, family guy, military guy,
Yep.
highly likable. He's the type of person you want to see run. I think they need to try to recruit more people like that. And this could be a big year. You know, Governor Cucciari has been unable to get enough people up there that'll go along with him. If he could ever have veto power, it could change the whole dynamic of things.
I had the union guys on last week. I had George Nee and Bob Walsh, your favorite guys.
My condolences.
Yeah, I'm going to say, your favorite guys. And, you know, we kind of walked through the process, but one thing that struck me was I said to them, who do you think public opinion is with, you or the governor? And they said, us. And I don't see that at all. I mean, people may have issues with Governor Cucciari, but this intransigence on the unions, and they've said, look, obviously they're not going to give away the store for stuff that they've negotiated, but it comes down, when it came down to a George Nee, it was almost as if he was insulted that the governor didn't bring him in, and that when Bruce Sunland brought him in and they had tea and crumpets and brought them into the process, I almost said, so we're talking style over substance? Would you agree to it if the governor it was almost as if there was a myth about it, and now we need to draw the line in the sand.
It's bad blood. And I give the governor and his people a lot of credit. I don't know how you negotiate with those guys. They're impossible to negotiate with. The whole union mentality, no give-backs, and the whole thing. They are, in my opinion, they're selfish. They have no problem, running the state in the ground, and they're living in dream world with these contracts. No one enjoys what these union people enjoy and the state workers enjoy. Nowhere in the country. I just got back from Arizona. There's no way those people enjoy the type of perks. And it is to our detriment. These pensions are killing us. The lack of contributing to health care. If they would just do what people do in the private sector, it would eliminate all our budget problems.
Yeah, but and we've said time and time again, and I had the governor on here just 6 weeks ago after the beginning of the session. He's trying to solve, and I see that little bit of desperation, with the money, trying to come up with new money. He's trying to solve in 1 or 2 years what's been building for 20 years. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, it's tough, but the negotiations will really start to get heated because the contracts are up this spring.
Yeah.
The governor knows that they're going to be scrambling, but they're unreasonable. Look at our schools. Our schools, none of the money goes into textbooks or building new schools. You go to other parts of the country, they bring new schools. It's all in administrative costs or in teacher pensions, and we still have the ranked 47th in education, and we have some of the highest paid teachers in the country. So the governor has a battle. It's too bad that the debts have been building up. But this is a crucial year right now in Rhode Island. Because it's an election year, we need to change the face of the people up at that General Assembly and get new blood in there and people that are not enslaved by